Let's play our game again. No, Sammy, I don't want to. Why not? Mary crossed her arms and said, because it's painful. I don't like it. But it's just a game. You liked it before. Mary shook her head again. I don't want to do it anymore, she said firmly. Sammy felt confused and frustrated. He didn't understand why Mary had changed her mind. For the first time, their secret game caused a fight between them. Sammy stormed off to his room, and Mary sat alone, feeling sad but also a little relieved. Parents gather here. Do you know what your kids are doing secretly without your presence? Let's look at what happened to these two kids and learn together. But first, kindly subscribe and like the channel. Let's dive. Sammy and Mary lived in a small but cozy house with their mom and dad. Sammy was 9 years old, and Mary was 6. They were close siblings and did everything together, from playing games to eating snacks. Their parents were loving and hardworking, but their jobs kept them busy most of the time. Every morning, their parents would remind them of the rules before heading off to work: be good, don't fight, and don't do anything dangerous. Sammy and Mary loved having the house to themselves. It made them feel grown up. When their parents left, they would usually watch TV, color in their books, or play with their toys. Everything seemed perfect in their little world. They didn't know that one day something would happen that would change everything they thought they knew about fun and games. Sammy and Mary's favorite thing to do when their parents were at work was to watch TV. They loved cartoons, especially the funny ones with talking animals and silly jokes. One morning, after their parents left, Sammy grabbed the remote and settled on the couch. Let's watch something new today, he said. Mary nodded excitedly, hopping onto the couch beside him. As they flipped through the channels, they found a movie that looked interesting. It wasn't a cartoon, but it had bright colors and music that caught their attention. This looks fun, Sammy said. Mary agreed, and they started watching. They didn't know that the movie wasn't meant for kids. It was showing things they'd never seen before. But Sammy and Mary were curious. They didn't understand it, so they thought it was just another funny show. As the movie played, Sammy and Mary watched closely. They saw adults on the screen doing things they didn't understand. It looked like they were playing a weird kind of game. What are they doing? Mary asked, tilting her head. Sammy shrugged. I don't know, but it looks like a game. Maybe we can play it too. Mary giggled. Okay, she said, trusting her big brother. Sammy turned off the TV and said, let's try it. They didn't know what they were doing, but they started copying what they had seen. To them, it was just pretend play, like when they acted out being superheroes or chefs. When they finished, they laughed and promised to play the game again the next time their parents went home. From that day on, Sammy and Mary had a new secret game. Every time their parents left for work, they would turn on the TV, watch more of the strange movies, and then play their version of the game. To them, it felt like a fun and silly secret that only they knew about. Don't tell Mom and Dad, Sammy would say. They won't understand. Mary would nod. It's just our game, she agreed. They thought it was harmless, just like playing hide and seek or tag. But slowly, Mary started feeling a little strange about it. Sometimes, the game hurt or made her feel uneasy, but she didn't know how to tell Sammy. She didn't want to make him upset. So she kept playing, even though she wasn't sure it was a good idea anymore. As the weeks went by, Mary began to feel more and more uncomfortable about their secret game. One day, after they finished playing, she frowned and hugged her knees. Sammy noticed and asked, "What's wrong?" Mary shrugged. "I don't know. It just feels weird," she said softly. Sammy looked confused. "But it's just for fun. Don't you like it?" Mary didn't answer. She didn't want to hurt Sammy's feelings. But deep inside, she knew she didn't want to play the game anymore. It wasn't like hide and seek or tag. It felt different, and it didn't make her happy. She decided that the next time Sammy asked, she would say no, even if it made him upset. One afternoon, their parents left for work as usual. Sammy turned to Mary with a big smile and said, "Let's play our game again." But Mary shook her head. "No, Sammy. I don't want to. Sammy was surprised. Why not? He asked. Mary crossed her arms and said, because it's painful. I don't like it. Sammy looked upset. But it's just a game. You liked it before. Mary shook her head again. I don't want to do it anymore, she said firmly. Sammy felt confused and frustrated. He didn't understand why Mary had changed her mind. For the first time, their secret game caused a fight between them. Sammy stormed off to his room, and Mary sat alone, feeling sad but also a little relieved. After their argument, Sammy and Mary stopped talking to each other as much. The house felt quieter, and things didn't feel the same. Sammy didn't know how to feel. He missed playing with Mary, but he was also angry that she didn't want to play their game anymore. Mary felt lonely too, but she didn't regret saying no. She was tired of the secret game and wanted things to go back to how they used to be, when they just watched cartoons and laughed together. Their parents noticed that something was different. Why are you two so quiet? Mom asked one evening, but neither Sammy nor Mary said anything. They both felt too scared and confused to tell the truth. At school, Mary couldn't stop thinking about the secret game. She felt like she needed to tell someone, but she was afraid. What if she got into trouble? One day, her teacher, Miss Clara, noticed that Mary seemed sad. Is everything okay, Mary? She asked gently. Mary hesitated but finally nodded. I need to tell you something, she whispered. Miss Clara sat down and listened as Mary explained the game she and Sammy had been playing. Miss Clara's face grew serious. Thank you for telling me, Mary, she said. You did the right thing. I'm going to help you and your family. Mary felt a mix of relief and fear. She didn't know what would happen next, but she was glad she had finally told someone. Miss Clara called Sammy and Mary's parents and asked them to come to the school for a meeting. When Mom and Dad heard what Mary had said, they were shocked. How could this happen? Mom asked, her eyes filling with tears. We had no idea, Dad said, shaking his head. Miss Clara explained that Sammy and Mary needed help understanding what had happened. They didn't know it was wrong, she said. They are just kids, and they need guidance. Mom and Dad felt guilty for leaving the kids alone so often. They realized they needed to do more to protect and guide Sammy and Mary. They decided to get help for their children and their family. After the meeting with Miss Clara, Sammy and Mary's parents decided to take action immediately. That evening, when they got home, Mom and Dad sat Sammy and Mary down at the dining table. The kids could tell that this was serious. Dad spoke first, his voice gentle but firm. Sammy, Mary, we've learned about the secret game you've been playing. We understand that you didn't know it was wrong, but it's something we need to talk about. Sammy's eyes widened in fear, and Mary looked down at her hands. Are we in trouble? Sammy asked quietly. Mom shook her head. You're not in trouble. But we need to help you understand why this game isn't okay. Mom and Dad explained, in simple terms, that what they had been doing wasn't a game and that it wasn't something children should ever try to copy. They reassured Sammy and Mary that they weren't bad kids and that it wasn't their fault. We made a mistake by leaving you alone so often, Mom admitted. We should have been paying more attention to what you are watching. Dad nodded. From now on, we're going to make sure the TV only shows things that are good for you. And if you ever see something that confuses you, you can always come to us and ask. Sammy and Mary listened quietly. Sammy felt a wave of guilt and sadness. I'm sorry, Mary, he said, his voice trembling. I didn't mean to hurt you. Mary looked up and gave him a small smile. It's okay, she said. I just didn't know how to tell you before. Their parents hugged them both tightly, promising to support them and keep them safe. The next day, their parents arranged for the family to meet with a counselor who specialized in helping children understand complicated situations. At the counselor's office, Sammy and Mary were encouraged to talk about their feelings and ask any questions they had. The counselor used stories and examples to help them understand why some things are meant only for adults and why it's important to set boundaries. Sammy and Mary began to feel more confident and less confused as they learned. At home, things slowly started to improve. Their parents made an effort to spend more time with them, playing games, reading stories, and even watching cartoons together. They also set clear rules about what could be watched on TV, using parental controls to block anything inappropriate. Sammy and Mary felt safer and happier knowing their parents were there to guide them. Over time, Sammy and Mary's bond grew even stronger. They went back to playing their usual games, hide and seek, tag, and make-believe adventures. The secret game became a distant memory, replaced by laughter and love. The family learned an important lesson about communication and trust, and they promised to always look out for one another. Sammy and Mary knew they could face anything as long as they stuck together. The days following the meeting with Miss Clara were different for Sammy and Mary. Their parents sat down with them more often to talk about feelings, safety, and how to ask questions when something seemed confusing or strange. Mom and Dad started working shorter hours when they could, ensuring one of them was home more often. When they couldn't be home, they made arrangements for a neighbor or a trusted family friend to watch Sammy and Mary. The family also began visiting the counselor regularly. At first, Sammy was nervous and quiet during the sessions. He didn't fully understand why everyone was making such a big deal about their secret game. It was just for fun, he said during one session. The counselor nodded and explained, sometimes things can seem like fun when we don't fully understand them, but they might not actually be safe or okay. Through gentle conversations, Sammy started to realize that not everything he saw on TV was meant to be copied and that it was important to ask questions when he didn't understand something. Mary, on the other hand, felt relieved to talk about her feelings. She explained how she had started feeling strange about the game and how scared she was to tell Sammy she didn't want to play anymore. The counselor praised her for being brave and taught both kids how to say no when something didn't feel right, even if it was with someone they loved and trusted. At home, their parents worked hard to rebuild a sense of security and trust. They created a schedule for family time, which included game nights, movie afternoons, and trips to the park. Sammy and Mary began to feel closer to their parents and to each other again. They laughed together like they used to, but this time, there were no secrets or uneasy feelings. One evening, as the family sat together watching cartoons, Sammy turned to Mary and said, "I'm sorry I made you feel bad. I didn't know it was wrong." Mary smiled and hugged her brother. "It's okay. I know you didn't mean to." Their parents watched them with tears in their eyes, proud of how far they had come as a family. Life slowly returned to normal, but it was a better, stronger version of normal. Sammy and Mary learned that it was okay to ask questions and share their feelings. Mom and Dad learned the importance of being present and vigilant in their children's lives. Together, they built a foundation of trust, love, and open communication that would guide them through whatever challenges came their way in the future.